You could call it East meets West. That's one way of seeing the meeting between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Manitoba Premier Brian Pallister, a premier who has openly blamed Mr. Trudeau for the deep divisions we now see across the country. But behind closed doors, the two met on Friday to try to work out how the new minority Liberal government might deal with the controversial issues in the prairies like pipelines, the carbon tax, even gun control issues. So what did the Manitoba Premier demand from the Prime Minister? Let's find out. Joining me now is Manitoba Premier Brian Pallister. Great to see you in town, sir.
And you, sir.
Why did you blame the Prime Minister for the divisions post-election in the country?
Well, I think that's an accurate assertion, but I think political leaders can, run divisive political strategies. Prime ministers need to unite, and there's probably never been a more apt time in recent years for that unification strategy to start. But people in Western Canada want to see deeds, not just words. They'll need to see action.
On what particular files?
Oh, the pipeline, obviously, other files as well. We're trying to build flood protection in Manitoba, and we've been delayed because of federal pole shifting over the last number of years. There are projects that need to get built, things that need to get done. And I think today I came as a friendly Manitoban, as the Premier of the Keystone Province, to say let's make sure that we're building a country that's stronger than the sum of its individual different parts.
Let me move to the carbon tax. Sure. You guys are taking the federal government to court over the imposition of a price on carbon, and yet you claim that you've got a plan that would meet the very same emissions reductions as the government. I just asked Minister Carla Qualtrough, would they be open to accepting your plan and then getting rid of the price on carbon? And it was kind of, we're open to anything. Mm-hmm. Did you ask the Prime Minister about that? Did you get the sense that they're open to it?
I won't reveal contents of personal discussions with anyone. I just simply have raised the issue of the need for us to recognize that each province has different approaches, and that ours is well designed. It's been recognized by the Environment Minister herself as the best in Canada. We have a green record. We want to build on that. We're eliminating single-use plastic bags. We're building conservation projects.
But can you reach the emissions targets that the federal government says you need to?
And we have scientifically evaluated our plan and believe it works better than the federal plan. So we're asking for the respect we deserve in Manitoba.
Well, is he going to give it to you? Well, what did he say? He's trying to reach out. Just
again,
give us a sense. Is he open to it? How about that?
I would say the sense that I get is that the Prime Minister wants to heal some of the rifts that have occurred. I would hope that he would take some personal responsibility for some of those rifts. Obviously, as we know, this was it's a divisive federal election. Let's be straight. It's a divisive federal election. He ran here in Ontario against the Premier of Ontario. Previously, he sent his ministers out to say that we were all climate change deniers in Western Canada. This is not true, and of course this is an assertion that some make during campaigns that can be very divisive.
But did he give you an olive branch that was not just words?
My endeavor with the Prime Minister is that we need to reach out, and we need to be accepting of the fact that premiers are legitimate people here who represent the people in their jurisdiction. When the Prime Minister, the ground shifted, as you know. When the Prime Minister came in, 8 premiers, all Liberal or NDP, now the other way around pretty much, right? Let's remember that you can't just work around premiers in this next 4 years, or you're going to end up with a worse situation than you have now.
Do you think Jason Kenney, the Premier of Alberta, he's talked a lot about anger, he's talked a lot about a separatist movement. Is it recklessly playing footsies with a separatist movement in your mind? He's made demands for threatening to pull out of the pension plan, the Canada pension plan. He's made demands about redoing the equalization plan. Do you support what he's doing?
He is expressing the concerns that Albertans have. He's doing that honestly, and frankly, what would be reckless would be to ignore the reality of the situation in Alberta and Saskatchewan. It's a desperate circumstance that many people are facing. It's not something they're used to, and it's hard for families. The suicide rates among young men in Alberta are shocking, and people want to work in Western Canada. We want a country that works. We want to have the chance to build. We want to see results, and those things have been delayed, deferred, postponed for a long time. So now it's time to get to work making Canada work better for all of the people in all regions.
Do you support redoing equalization formula? Do you support that?
Oh, that debate will go right off the table the day the pipeline gets approved and starts working. Look, the problem that we face in this country, I think, is the lack of understanding that social progress depends on economic progress. They're not either or. I mean, they're intertwined. You could pay for a national dental program for every child in Canada with the tax revenues from the Trans Mountain expansion.
But that pipeline's been held up by the courts. You blame Trudeau for that?
Well, it's the court's basing its decisions and processes on federal government rules, is it not?
Right. So
well, then let's take a look at making sure that we don't have unnecessary delay, perpetual delay, used by opponents, people who say just leave all our resources in the ground and buy it from a Saudi prince instead.
You're saying, essentially, the equalization stuff is just a threat. You build the pipeline, that disappears. So there's actually no problem with the equalization formula. That's just political stunt making until that pipeline gets built. That's what you're saying.
No, that's what you said.
No, you said that disappears the day the pipeline gets built. So that means it...
That would be my prediction.
Okay, so you don't think that equalization needs to be reworked right now?
I think the point is that equalization is a program that's benefited many parts of the country, including my province, for a long time, and that chief among the payers into that program has been Alberta for a long, long time, in the sense that not directly, but indirectly. You know how equalization works. Actually, 9 Canadians know how equalization works. The fact remains that Alberta has a serious concern that needs to be addressed, not just talked about, but addressed.
Last question to you. You're a Conservative Premier.
I am.
Served federally. Andrew Scheer is being asked about his personal religious beliefs about social conservative issues that Peter MacKay said hung around Andrew Scheer like a stinking albatross. This is about same-sex marriage and other issues. Now he's being asked about it. Do you think this is an issue for Andrew Scheer? And how does he balance his personal beliefs with how this is playing out politically in your view?
Well, it's a difficult challenge for every leader. I mean, you come in with a set of personal beliefs, and the beauty of politics is that you have them tested, and that you advance in your thinking and your understanding. You develop a better understanding of who you are as a person. Andrew Scheer is a fine person, and he's tried to be honest and forthright about who he is as a man. The balancing act in terms of the public sentiment is a challenge every leader faces. Justin Trudeau has said, I'm a devoted Catholic, and this is my view. Andrew Scheer has said he is not going to advance legislation against same-sex marriage. These are challenges. The beauty of the situation that Andrew now faces, and the double-edged dichotomy of it, is that the grassroots members of the Conservative Party across Canada are going to determine who their leader is. They're going to ask themselves some of the questions you've just asked me. And in the Conservative Party, that's how we run. So Andrew will be accountable to the people in the party, and they will all have the opportunity to have their say. That some say is messy. That's democracy, isn't it?
Got to leave it there. Premier, always good to have you here. Thanks.
Pleasure, Evan. Nice to see you.
Yeah.